Welcome to the True Demon Lord Show. I am the True Demon Lord Franco, and today, it's a good day, right? So we have the data slate updates and changes, and as demon players, we got quite spoiled. So we got some good rules changes, which really will impact the way we play the game. And then we've got some pretty decent point changes as well. Nothing too extensive, but enough to really to help out, right? There are some units that needed it, that got it, which is quite nice. But yes, overall, super happy. There are also a bunch of game changes throughout with different rules, different abilities, ways things interact with stratagems, etc. etc. So much changed. But we're not going to go into that. This is just reaction into the demon changes. We might reference a few bits here and there just in relation to our units. But yeah, we're just going to focus straight on the demon stuff mostly. So let's get straight into it. With all the new rule changes, so I'm super excited for this. So as far as the rule changes go, we got a few. They all pretty much interact with the greater demons. But basically, so our rule of our army rule, the Shadow of Chaos, while any of our units are within it, they get +1 to battle shocks and they get the heal D3 wounds unless the unit is battle line, in which case it just returns D3 models. Then there's a second part of it, which is while an enemy unit takes a battle shock while in the Shadows of Chaos, they are -1 to it, and then they also take D3 mortal wounds should they fail. So they basically added a tagline to that in addition to just being in the shadows and taking the -1 leadership debuff and the D3 mortal wounds should they fail, it's now also if they're within 6 inches of a greater demon. Now, this kind of contradicts with another thing the greater demon's got because it was going to do it anyway, but you know, by and by, to be able to kind of always have that threat, the -1 battle shock, it's not the greatest thing ever, but the abilities or the ability to kind of change a game is there with it. For example, your greater demon charges in, or it's in combat, does enough damage to force the battle shocks. Your opponent then has to then take the battle shock at -1. It's quite nice if they fail, and then also taking D3 mortals is quite nice. This in relation to say blood crushers with the bloodmaster charge or skullmaster charging in, sorry. If you can't get shadows in the middle but you have a greater demon nearby, that's quite nice as well. um Probably the best part of all the rule changes though. So essentially the greater demon's got what Be'lakor has, right? So Be'lakor always has a shadows of a 6-inch bubble of shadows of chaos. In the middle here, as you can see, when we set up a Chaos Demon unit using Deep Strike, as long as it has the same keyword as the Greater Demon it's setting up wholly within 6 inches of, it can also set up 6 inches away from any enemy unit. So the same thing as what Be'lakor has, except it's God locked. So for example, you can only drop 6 Blood Crushers within 6 inches, wholly within 6 inches of Scarbrand or a Bloodthirster, and 6 away from your opponent. You can only drop 10 Demonettes within 6 inches of Shalaxi or a Keeper, and 6 from the opponent, etc. etc. So it's Bellacor's ability, but godlocked. But that's huge, right? Because our whole gimmick and the good thing about us is the 6-inch deep shot. That's our best, kind of most unique thing. And you needed the shadows to get out, which could be quite hard to keep the shadows up, or Be'lakor. So now that all the greater demons also have it, is just really good because you were taking Be'lakor and 2 to 3 greater demons anyway. Um, so that's pretty massive. Um, yeah, that's absolutely it's huge. I'm happy they've done it, and it's like back to like ninth edition with the warp locuses. But just looking at it and seeing that they've given it to us is just a little bit surreal because it just feels so good. So you don't just have to use Be'lakor now; like you can still take Be'lakor. His usefulness definitely goes down now that the other greater demons have it as well. Though he still definitely has his no shoot bubble, which is still key, I think. But yeah, the fact that greater demons can do this now is fantastic. It also really helps with mono demon lists. So you want to take a Nurgle list, you have, say, even if you do take Be'lakor, you still have Rodagust and a Great Unclean one or 2 Great Unclean ones. Now you can use them, the Great Unclean ones, to drop the Plague Bearers close by or each other close by or whatever. I think Khorne definitely makes up the biggest winners of this, being able to drop, you know, using a Bloodthirster and Scarbrand and being able to double the 6-inch charges off them, or using Be'lakor to bring in, say, I don't know, Scarbrand and then a Bloodthirster to bring in Blood Crushers, for example. Also being able to chain this now may not seem outright very useful, but definitely is, like using Be'lakor to move him up. Then dropping, say, a Bloodthirster, say 7 inches away from the opponent, and then using his 6 inch bubble to then drop Blood Crushers 6 inches or more away. So the ability that we have to just keep chaining this now is really good as well. I just think it's such a good quality of life change, and it really does shake up how we're going to build lists. And then last rule change is all greater demons gained the 6 inch aura of Shadows of Chaos. So just like Be'lakor, the area of the battlefield 6 inches around a greater demon is classed as being within your Shadow of Chaos. Now that's super good. Again, it contradicts with the other ones that while an enemy unit is within 6 inches of them because of the shadows, as well as this specific wording, they take the -1 leadership debuff as well as the D3 mortal wounds if they fail. Um, or battle shock debuff, not leadership debuff. Being able to drop holy within 6 inches of them, 6 inches away. But the other great thing about this, and the best part about the shadow aura, is permanent enhancement buffs. So the the Grant came on, which spoiler took no hits whatsoever, didn't go up in points. Then this gift didn't go up. He's now always in a 4+4 no pain because the problem with him was you always had to have him in the shadows, either near Be'lakor or on an objective that you corrupted with the corrupt rule survey strat, or just in the shadows in general. But now all greater demons are always in the shadow. So that guy is now sitting there with a permanent 4+4 no pain. The Lord of Change is always sitting there with +6 inch range, +2 to the strength of range weapons. The Bloodthirst is always on 2 attacks and +2 strength, or extra 2 attacks and +2 strength from Margav. And then the Keepers are always getting a wound back for every model they kill on a 3+, with all these enhancements. So that's really nice. The other great thing is Warp Surge. So the strap that lets you advance and charge if you're in the shadows when you make the charge roll. Again, all great demons are always in the shadows now. So Bloodthirsters for one super can always advance and charge. Keepers can always advance and charge. Gremlins can always advance charge if you really want them to. Sogan Laws of Change, like that's just amazing. It really is good. Um, it seems simple, but yet massive. It's huge, huge changes, and I'm a bit taken aback because I kind of vaguely knew we had something to do with the 6 inch deep strike just from hearing it from some places, but to just see it is just, I don't know, it just feels really nice. And I genuinely think they are massive changes that are going to really, really help us. Like just the amount of 6 inch deep strikes that we are able to get now, especially in mono god lists. I think mono Khorne is definitely scary. I think mono Sinesh has place as well, as we'll get into in a bit. Mono Nurgle still really, really good, and obviously mono Zinch will benefit from this less, but it's still there. It's still nice. So let's look at all the point changes. So, spoiler alert, everything that got affected by points went down. Nothing went up, which is amazing. So firstly, Be'lakor went down 25 points from 325. That's good because the no shoot bubble was amazing. The shadow permanent shadow bubble was really great, and it still is really good. But obviously, is now that all the great demons have it, definitely brings his usefulness down and his uniqueness that kind of you were taking him for. He's lost a lot of that, and I personally thought the shadow bubble was the best part about him. Now that other people can get it, it definitely hurts him a bit, but he still can take it. I still think the no shoot bubble from Reef and Shades is still fantastic. Um, his combat can lack. His shooting is nice, so I do actually like his shooting into like infantry and on that kind of stuff. Even just to punch dev wounds through and stuff as well is quite nice. Um, I definitely think you'll see less Be'lakor now. I still think you'll see him. I am at least at the beginning of this new meta, I'm going to take him. But I can see him slowly leaving my list. Maybe about a month or two down the line, I think you'll definitely see a lot more lists without him. The people that either didn't like him still won't take him, or the people that were umming and ahhing him and were still taking him just because of the shadow bubble and all that kind of stuff will now probably drop him. But him going down to points is nice. I still would have liked more points. I still would have liked him to go down a bit closer to 300. But I still think 325 is nice. It's nice to get the drop on him. Bloodthirst is now 305, so same price as Scarbrand, which I like because they feel comparable more now because obviously you're getting the flat 6 damage from Scarbrand, but you're also getting the 12-inch fly from the Bloodthirster. So you're getting more. You're kind of a trade off more than just, oh, well, Scarbrand's just cheaper. So that's quite nice. I definitely think as well with the changes where a model's like the model itself, outside of its base, anything that overhangs no longer interacts with terrain. For example, his massive wings used to stop him getting through gaps. As long as his base can fit through, it doesn't matter. The wings don't matter; they can just go through, which is, in my opinion, the way it should have worked. Because realistically, he could just fold his wings down, pull his, adding a bit of logic to 40k, which is a silly thing to say. It never made to me. It never made sense for the model itself to block the base. I get it. The model itself to block movement because of terrain bits, I thought was a bit weird. But I like that they've changed that. They've also added the pivot stuff. He has to spend 2 inches of movement to pivot. That's all right. I mean, it's clear at least. But 305 points, always being in the shadows, so can advance a charge for a CP. Can always get the extra 2 attacks and then +2 strength from Argath is always really nice. Being able to drop 6 inches within Scarbrand or drop anything Khorne within 6 inches of him and 6 inches away from the opponent is also really nice. Both Demon Princes went down. The Footprints went down to 190 and the Winged Prince went down to 180. They're not bad. Like, they are cheap enough now to definitely consider. Um, I still don't think the Bloodthirster is like in need of Argath. It's still nice to have Argath, but he's not in need of it. So taking a Demon Prince with wings with Argath and Mocha Khorne obviously isn't terrible still. In a mono Khorne list with some Ren Masters about, Bloodthirsters and Scarbrand to allow him to drop closer, using them to give him the Shadow Bubbles now, not just Be'lakor. So I definitely think you could definitely get something out of it. I still think the Greater Demons are just the Greater Demons are like they were most of them were decent anyway or really good. I think they're all good now, all the Greater Demons. For their points, I don't really think there's a bad one. There's definitely a hierarchy and tier list of them, but I think as far as taking Demon Princes, you can if you really want like a small smashing monster, especially for a corn list. But I don't know, they still just don't feel comparable to the Great Demons. Demonettes did go down. I actually missed this. So because I was at work when all this came out, right? So I was like in between cooking and going through my phone and seeing, oh yeah, look at all the changes. And I thought I saw all the point changes until I came to writing this up. I didn't realize, right, Demonettes did go down. And they're now down to 100 points. I still think they could go cheaper, but 100 points doesn't feel terrible, right? Um, I mean, I still don't like it, but I can deal with it. And being able to get them in closer now because of the keepers and Shalaxi is now really nice as well. And having them nearby keepers and Shalaxi for advancing charge if you need it, as well as like +1 AP from the keepers. I feel like in a mono Sinestro, which is definitely more viable now. I think all monoliths are more viable now, because of the shadow stuff for the great demons. I think the points for 10 demonettes is not the end of the world. They definitely went from being one of my least favorite units because of the points and all that to maybe not being a favorite, nowhere near that. But now, like, if I want to take a Sinesh list, I don't feel bad taking Demonettes anymore because you can play around with them more. 100 points, though it's only a 10-point drop, you know, it still feels better than 110 points, So in a mono Sinesh list, I definitely think Demonettes are definitely something to think about. The Fate Skimmer went down 10 points to 95 points. Um, he's okay. He has the typical Zinch Herald shooting attack. And then he lets his unit that he's attached to, which will be a Scream unit, come off the board once per game and come back on, which is nice. They can only come on through strategic reserves, which hurts a bit. And then he buffs his Screamers as well with lethal hits, I believe. Um, yeah, meh. I just don't think they do enough to still warrant anything, even as Zinch list. I think if you're going to take Screamers, which I definitely think are viable going into Pariah Nexus because of their speed, um, you're not gonna take a Freight Skimmer. So 95 points, cool. Like he definitely feels more appropriately pointed. Still not probably gonna see him much, but the options there, I guess. Fiends. Now I think Fiends are massive winners from all this. Now I like them anyway, and I was running them when they were 130. At 120, I liked them, but I'd moved away from them. But now they're 105 points. They went down 15 points for 3 and 30 points for that's not right. Is that right? That is right. They were 120, they were 240. Yeah, sorry, they were right. My maths is right. So yeah, so 210 for 6, 105 for 3. They went down 15, 30 points. I just think for their points now is super good. It's only taken them a year to get it right. Because they come out at 150 points, which was nuts. And then they were down to 130, which is still feels bad, but I was taking them a little bit. Well, I like them to be fair. And then they went down to 120, but the fact that they were still more expensive than Blood Crushers just felt a bit bad. And yes, they can go through walls, but they're nowhere near as tough, you know. But now they're cheaper than Blood Crushers, 105 for three. I think they are super viable now, especially considering you can shadow them in 6 inches away with Keepers and Shalaxi, which just feels really good. You don't just need Be'lakor now. Um, and also the pivot thing, you know, their pivot doesn't cost any points, even though they're on an oval base, because they're not a monster or a vehicle. Um, and we're gonna get into that in a bit, like some jank you can do with that. But yeah, I like it. I really like that change. I think Fiends are generally the best unit. Aside from Greater Demons, 'cause obviously Greater Demons are all amazing, and they're the big winners of all of this. I think after that, Beans definitely come out as the next winners. Um, I just think they were already a unit that we needed, and they were already close to what we needed. Now 105 points for three of them. You know, they moved 12 inches. They're T5, 4 wounds. They've got 5 attacks of strength 5 -2 damage. They're -1 to hit, or they have a 6 inch -1 to hit aura and melee against non-vehicle, non-titanic units, which is super good, especially in a combat meta. I think Fiends are super good. Plague drones. So I got to play some plague drones recently when I ran a mono Nurgle list at an RTT. They definitely help with your damage in a Nurgle list. But going down to 110 points, I think is nice. 220 for the six of them. If you want to take a big block of six, I don't think you need a big block of six. Um, but 110 points, you know, yeah. Again, similar to the Fiends. Why? Like, well, I mean, were more expensive than Crushers. Why? Yes, they're slightly tougher because they've got a extra point of toughness, and an extra wound. But then a 5 up invuln compared to a 4 up invuln, they move the same, and their damage is nowhere near the same. But the reroll wounds for Nurgle stuff is really good. But yeah, it's been the same points as Blood Crushers now. They perform a different role to Blood Crushers. Blood Crushers are a hammer, where Plague Drones are a buffing unit. But yes, no, I like it. I think that's a good change as well. Um, I would like to see maybe them come down to 105 or even 100, but I think 110 is fine for them. Skull Cannons going down to 95, I think is interesting because Skull Cannon shooting isn't the best, but it's okay. Gives us something we don't elsewhere have really. Um, the reason you're taking them is when they hit something with a shooting attack, you pick one of the units they hit, which is only going to be one unit, and that unit takes a battle shock test. Being able to have them in the shadows, or even now just within 6 inches of a greater demon, which is quite nice. Um, Causing them to be battle shocked, which is really nice. And obviously being within 6 inches of the great demon gives them -1 and take the 3 mortal should they fail. Um, so I think there's play for them in a corn list as well now. Um, yeah, I think corn's coming out of this super strong. Um, but yeah, I like the Skull Cannons at 95 points. I think they're solid for what they do. Are they going to light the world alight or light it on fire? Probably not. But they're definitely takeable at 95 points. I can see two of them being taken in a corn list. Maybe even a normal list because the forcing battle shocks is just nice. Um, just to stop your opponent from being able to do anything with their units. It's quite cool. Soul Grinders went down to 180 from 190. Nice. Soul Grinders are good. Just depends on terrain because of the bases. Over here in the UK, most events rule you have to have the base, and on our most common terrain set, which is UKTC, it does hurt them a lot because it's really hard to move them about. But I know in the US, terrain is a lot more. It's easier to maneuver around because you can place it yourself, and there's more gaps. Especially you, to be honest, GW style terrain, which I know a lot of US events use, is also quite okay for them because there's more gaps to move around. But overall, yeah, I think 180 for a Soul Grinder body is not bad. They were our only form or way to get Tank Shock, and obviously Tank Shock took a bit of a knock. It's now the toughness value of the vehicle, not the strength value of one of its weapons. But that would still be 11 dice, which is nice. And then we have Nurglings. So this was weird. I don't want to say they made a mistake with this, right? So obviously going into Pariah Nexus, Nurglings can no longer do actions because they're 0 AC. But they're still an infiltrating body with 4 wounds apiece on each base that also have a -1 to hit aura against non-vehicle, non-monster units. So that's not bad, right? I still think you're gonna you won't see 3+ units anymore. You'll see 1 to 2. But so they've stayed at 40 points for 3. Okay. But now there's 70 points for 6, which there used to be 80, so there's a 10-point drop. And then there are 105 for 9, which they were 120. So it's like they took a 10-point drop for 6 and a 15-point drop for 9. So it feels like they're going up in increments of 5 per drop or per unit size. So it feels like, yeah, feels like they should have lost 5 points and been 35 points. Um, and I think 35 points would have been fine. I still think 40 points is okay. I'm actually tempted by a unit of 6 for 70 points because 70 points is not a lot at all. And that one unit will just be to either screen out or stop infiltrators because I don't want certain infiltrating units near my stuff or in good positions for my opponent, and also to stop scout moves because again, combat armies with scout moves are scary. Ball control armies with scouts are annoying. So 6 Nurgling bases very good to screen across. Um, yeah, like I think it's just weird. I think it's strange. The not taking the 5 points off the three, but then doing the 10 points and the 15 points on the six and the nine. But but I still think you're gonna see one unit, maybe two. I like a unit of 6 for 70 points. Because 2 units of 3 for 80 feels bad when you can take 6 in one unit for 30 for 70. But even then, they still score you positional secondaries like engage behind enemy lines for 40 points. You can't really complain about that. So I still think Nurgles have a place, just nowhere near as much. So big winners. I think all the Great Demons are winners. The Shadow Bubble that they now have, being able to drop your god specific units within 6 inches of the Great Demon of the same god and 6 away from your opponent. Um, the -1 leadership and D3 mortal wound aura, which obviously was going to happen for the shadows anyway. But yeah, I just think all Great Demons have viability. None of them went up. Seeing the Bloodthirster come down to 305 is really nice. Um, and the Great and Clean one staying at 230 or 260 with the Endless Gift and always having 4+ from the pain, I think is just really, really good. Um, More specifically, I think Fate Weaver definitely comes out of this as a good winner because vect abilities have changed. So, for those who aren't sure what a vect ability is, that is basically any ability where you could up the cost of an opponent's stratagem. So before it was you pick one of your opponent's battle tactic stratagems when they use it, and for the rest of the game it becomes +1 CP for them to use it. Fate Weavers worked a bit differently depending on how you read the wording because it technically didn't go up by just one; it just kept going up by one every turn. But you know, general vect it was your opponent uses a battle tactic, you now make it 1 CP more expensive for the rest of the game. Um, that's changed. Now you can affect any stratagem again, like it was at the beginning of the edition. So it's not just battle tactics, but it's no longer a pick it when they use it. It's while a stratagem is used on an enemy unit within 12 inches of a model with that ability, that stratagem costs an extra CP. So now it affects multiple units, multiple stratagems, any type of stratagem, but it is only a 12-inch aura, which for a combat army that you can get that in is still pretty good. I like that change. I think that's really good because having a Calidus sat in the back corner of the board going, hey, your uppy down is now 2 CP, screw you. And it was like, damn it, that's annoying. So now they have to be within 12 inches of any units that use the stratagem. More specifically, it doesn't make the stratagem more expensive for the rest of the game. It's just when you use it on a unit within 12 inches. I really like that. I think it's strong, but also you can play around it, which I really, really like. Um, I think obviously Fate Weaver's indirect got hit because now indirect can only hit on a natural hit roll of 4 or more, so you can never hit on better than a 4 now. Indirect, fine. I think the 12-inch aura is vector aura is just really, really good. Really good. You can really play around with that, especially if your opponent has, like, for example, Tau 3-inch deep strike, using their 3-inch deep strike and then they run away. If you keep Fate Weaver near the stuff that you really need to keep alive, you kind of go, cool. You wanted to be within 12, but now you kind of have to not do it because it's going to cost you too much CP, or do it and you have no CP, which is nice. Excuse me, Bloodthirsters. I think Bloodthirsters, I'm notoriously not a fan of Bloodthirsters because mostly because mine is scudded. Mine always makes like my it always makes my life really, really hard because my Bloodthirster has failed too many 6-up charges, and I know we all oh, we failed this charge, we failed that charge, but because I'm a Sado, I like to count this kind of thing. My Bloodthirster failed 26 6-inch charges in 35 competitive games, and at least half, if not more, of those were re-roll charges. So mine is just scudded. Mine has also gone in and cost me games by just not killing things it should just easily kill, like Hell Brutes or planes, like Elder Planes, etc., etc. So yeah, but all jokes aside, Bloodthirsters I think are definitely big winners. Their wings no longer clashing with terrain is huge. Um, and having shadow bubbles is really nice. Being able to come in off of Scarbrand's shadow bubble if needed is really good. Letting Scarbrand come in closer off them is nice. Crushers, etc., etc. Yeah, I think super, super good. I think the Blood Crushers definitely are coming out of this. Going down to 305 points as well, I think is fantastic. Having being able to always advance and trust for a CP is nice. Being able to always get the bonus from Argath for being in the shadows is really nice. I think Bloodthirsters generally have come out of this as, dare I say, the biggest winner overall. Maybe that or the Fat Boy. I can't decide. Um, he's not on here, but Fat Boy is definitely a winner as well. Always having a 4+4 no pain. Can't believe I missed him off this, but he's definitely a winner as well. Blood Crushers and Fiend. So the free pivot off their oval base is nice. Now, until this gets fixed, there is technically a really janky thing you can do with charges off small oval bases. So if you're not a monster or vehicle on an oval base, when you pivot on that base, you pivot for free. You don't have to spend any movement to do it. Now you can, for example, let's just use, for example, a 9-inch charge. Say you drop in 9 inches away with a unit of Blood Crushers or Fiends, and you roll an 8. Now let's ignore for the fact, just for this second, that Blood Crushers have a +1 to charge. You roll an 8. Well, you can move the 8 and then pivot since it's part of your movement. And because the pivot is free, and if you set up, so basically if you set up long ways to the side of your opponent, make a charge, and then rotate long ways so you're long ways faced into your opponent, you now make the 9-inch charge. And obviously, Blood Crushers get +1 to their charge. If you make a 6-inch charge, that's technically a 4-inch charge for Blood Crushers from reserves. Now, that's very janky. It will probably get fixed very soon, but technically, rules are written. That is a thing. And it's nuts. And I had to make sure, like, someone told me about it, and because before I really got to look at the pivot rules, someone told me about it, looked into it, I was like, yeah, I don't see why you can't. And after conferring with a few people, they were like, yeah, 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 it's stupid, but technically you can. I expect it to get fixed very soon, but technically you can do it, and it's nuts. um, yeah, and like I said, corn, mate. Corn is just coming off nuts. Spell cannons as well, like we already said, the point drops just make them quite nice for their points. They're pretty solid profile. Their shooting's okay. You're not going to kill mass amounts with their shooting, but being able to have the ability to battle shock them off the shooting is really nice. And like I said, in a corn unit, definitely worth it. So, I mean, they're probably, like I said, I missed off Fat Boy, who I think is a massive winner off this. Um, but yeah, I would say they're definitely my outright favourites overall. But yeah, I love the changes we've got. I think they're huge, huge changes. So yeah, so some really big changes. Not massive amounts of changes, but I think enough to really cause massive impacts. The whole thing for us is the 6-inch deep strikes, being able to jump around the board. It's all about manipulating your reserves and stuff like that. So to be able to get much more 6-inch deep strikes more reliably, like you don't have to rely on the shadows in the middle anymore. It's not just Be'lakor. Now you can get them in so many different areas from all your great demons. That's really good. I think mono lists are definitely going to come off good from this because obviously it's still only god specific units that can benefit from a great demon, the specific god great demons bubble. So because of that, obviously you're going to restrict yourself if you go to undivided. But I definitely think undivided lists or mostly undivided lists with some other units added in are definitely going to be the way you see people go. Um, like I think there are certain units like the unkillable Daemon who's truly very unkillable since he's always got the 4 up for no pain now. He's definitely going to make pretty much every list. I think Fiends, I can't harp on enough about how amazing I think Fiends are going to be. I thought they were good anyway. I used them at 130. Didn't use them as much as 120, but only because I'd moved on and did some other bits because I got bored. But yeah, no, I think Fiends are generally after the Great Demons, the biggest winners of this data slate. I think Corn is definitely going to walk away the biggest winner. I think we're going to see a lot of mono Corn lists just being able to, you know, bring in Blood Crushers off of the Greater Demons, taking Be'lakor, using him to bring down the Bloodthirster, using Scarbranding, using Bloodthirster to bring down Blood Crushers, etc., etc., and being able to chain them all off each other is really nice. I think Mono Slanesh, or mostly Slanesh, has play. Mono Corn, Mono Nurgle, or mostly Nurgle has play. Mono Zinch, maybe not so much. But they're saying that going into Pariah Nexus, Zinch definitely has a lot of play because Screamers are good scorers. Fate Weaver's definitely going to be an option because of the Vector aura now. He's really good. Um, Shooty Chicken, he's going to be there, right? Because he's always going to get the good shooty buffs no matter where he is on the board, which is really nice. So yeah, I just think overall we got some really good changes. And I could go on all day, right? I could just harp on and on and on. But when we say that for other videos, it's annoying because we've just done 3 out of the 4 of the God specific series, and obviously they are a little bit out of date since I didn't talk about the greater demons having all the extra abilities they now have. So that's annoying, but it's something we'll get back into. Um, but yeah, I think mono God lists are definitely going to be more viable. I still think there are certain units you want to take, like Nurgle. Sadly, you're not going to see any unit where near as many. You might still see 1 or 2 units. Like I said, I'm definitely interested in a unit of 6, just as Scout and Infiltrate Denial. Um, but yeah, I think the 6-inch deep strikes are like across the board, like having loads more of them now are really nice. You're going to get more benefit in a mono god list because of the because obviously you can only benefit, like a unit can only come down within 6 inches of a great demon of the same god. So if you have more of the same god units, more units are going to benefit from it. But yeah, no, I think I think it definitely opens up some more avenues to build your list. And will definitely make it a little bit more fun, less stale. And our amazing 6-inch deep strike detachment rule, which sometimes felt a bit bad because it was fun to get it off sometimes because of the shadows. You can play around it now because of the greater demon. So yeah, I mean, I'm a bit taken aback because I didn't think we were going to come out of this data slate. Like I thought we'd get some good changes. I was expecting some drawbacks. I was expecting fiends, not fiends, great and clean ones to go up. I was expecting Rogus to maybe get a bit of a hike. I was expecting Playbearers to go up a little bit. But yeah, no, to see nothing go up, I think is nuts. Especially considering how much like the Great Clean one just got better. Seeing Bloodthirsters come down is nice. Seeing Be'lakor come down is nice. Fiends going down is great. Demonettes come down a little bit, it's nice. And yeah, I just think overall we've definitely got more toys to play with. We weren't in the worst spot in the world. We were just very stale. And you can only really build certain ways, and a lot of units felt a little bit bad. And though I still don't think everything is fixed, you know, without giving us a complete overhaul, which it's not going to happen to before the codex. This is probably the best we're going to get, and I think we can really make most of it. So yeah, like as someone who only plays demons, so I only have the one faction to play. I can't swap out when I get bored. I'm really happy about these changes. I think there's some very good quality of life changes, and they're definitely gonna shake up your builds, right? Like I said, mono god now feels more viable. Like you feel less bad about taking mono god. It's not so much, oh, I like these units, or I like this god, I'm gonna tech into it. Maybe a bit more buffs from certain units, but now it's like, well, no, I want to make the most of my greater demon drop zones. So you want to take as many of those god units as you can. So yeah, overall, I love it. I'm very happy. So please let me know how you feel about it, and what list you're looking at taking and all that kind of stuff. So please leave a like and subscribe. It's always appreciated. Helps me continue to do this. Um, and keep up with the Facebook and the Instagrams, obviously under True Demon Lord, where you can keep up to date with all our uploads, hobby progress, tournament progress, etc., etc. So, thank you for tuning in, and we will catch you all very, very soon.